Welcome to this ZYTO video. I'm Josh Davis, this is Tracy Waterland. Today we're going to spend a little bit of time going over the Elite software and some of the benefits that it will bring to your clinic and the differences that really set it apart from our Select and our Evox and our Balance software.
So what we're going to do is start with just choosing a client. Go ahead and click on the Clients tab, and then you enter their name underneath the area that says New Client. So Josh, go ahead and enter in, say, a test name or your own. Yes, that's always good. And once you select the name, then it's going to bring you to this field. This field allows you to start a new session. It allows you also to see all of the reports that have happened from past sessions. We can also change the client's name and information and edit that. We could add some clinical notes as well over here. And we can also set an appointment time for them that will show up on their own report. Down below here on the right-hand side, we have the ability to archive a client. So for some reason, if you've added them in twice, then you can hide the one. We can never delete any client's name or information, but we can archive it. And that's what can be taken care of in this screen. So the next step is then to just quickly click on New Session. And now this exposes the Elite palette. I always refer to this as like a painter's palette. And you have different areas of the Elite page here, or the palette that you can go through. And Josh is going to take the first part.
So as you can see on this main page, you've got some different options. I'm going to start up here towards the top. If you own an Evox, that button will be there that you can toggle between the two if you have an Elite and an Evox combined. If you come over to this Biosurveys tab, this will bring up the different biosurveys that you have also in a Select system. So you can actually run the Select within the Elite. And this is where you'll generally get started when you purchase an Evox and move forward. This is kind of the starting point to get to know the software. The nice thing about the biosurveys is with the Elite system, you can build your own biosurveys. So like ZYTO has gone in, we've built like an advanced scan that will look at specific areas like maybe heavy metals and chemicals, environmental, foods. You can actually go in and build your own biosurvey that will put that in a specific order. Right. So for instance, maybe you focused on weight loss in a clinic. You could go in and say, okay, I want to look at digestive issues. Then you want to just balance those out with a very specific nutritional product. You can build that biosurvey to just do very specific steps.
I like that as well.
To your clinic.
I also like the fact that ZYTO has created some very specific biosurveys, one called a digestive biosurvey that can be purchased, as well as a lifestyles biosurvey. And these biosurveys assist the practitioner in those areas, whereas the flexibility with the Elite, you can change certain biosurveys. Those two biosurveys you can't change, but the advanced biosurvey, the basic biosurvey, and the foods biosurvey, you can actually copy and have the coaches assist you in altering those so you can tailor that to you. One of the advantages of the Elite is that you don't have to change your style of practicing to match the Elite system. You can have the Elite system find your style and mesh together.
Correct. So we're not going to focus on a lot of the biosurveys. If you want to get to know more on the ZYTO biosurveys, I would watch the video that goes over the Select system. What we're going to focus on here is I'm going to go over to our Elite palette. This is the beauty of the Elite. This is really where you start to see the main differences. In an Elite software, you can go in and run what we call manual scanning. Manual scanning is you can just go in with the client sitting right in front of you, and maybe you don't have a very specific agenda or area that you want to go in. You can organically just go into all of the topics and start picking and choosing what you want to look at specifically to that person sitting right in front of you.
For example, if I had digestive issues, you could run organs and glands. You could also run parasites or heavy metals, things that you might feel affect a digestive tract, colon, small intestine, and see how the body is responding to the stimulus.
Correct. So one thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to come into our stressor palette. So let's go back one. So one thing that I want to kind of quickly go over here is within the Elite software, you have a filter table. This is where you're going to look at more specific questions. So for instance, say you wanted to look at organs, glands, and systems that are focused to the digestive system, since that's what we're talking about a little bit here. Say when you run that scan and the stomach comes up as a stress response. You can then get more specific and use stomach as the filter and then ask more questions to say, okay, maybe parasites, chemicals, environmental. Let's put those against the stomach and that biomarker and see what areas are showing up with that a part of the circuit. Tracy has a great analogy here that he can kind of go through.
At least it's one that I enjoy. So we have a 35 millimeter camera here, and if I'm going to go to the autumn leaves and I want to take a picture of the autumn leaves, I can just do that and I can see what is present. It makes it easy to see. But if I want to have certain areas of those autumn leaves pop out so I can see them more easily, the reds, the yellows, the greens, I can place a filter onto the lens that will adjust so that I can see that. And so now when I take pictures, I can see those reds and greens very specifically. So it kind of helps to highlight different sections of the body or how it responds using the filter system. So just kind of a quick analogy. I enjoy it.
So the next area that I want to look at is the stressor table. The stressor table is where you will really go in, and this is where you do, I would say, 50% of what you're looking at when you're saying what is causing stress to that individual's field. So as you come up and you click on this arrow right here, that's this down arrow, this is going to pull you up into our main library where you have all of the different options to start selecting from. And ZYTO has created our main library, which is under ZYTO Corp. And this will go through all of the different categories that you can pick and choose from. One nice thing is, say as you're coming down and there's something that you like to look at frequently with your clients, for instance, organs, glands, and systems. I can click on organs, glands, and systems here, and because I go into it a fair amount of time within the clinic, you can make this a favorite. So if you star this right up at the top here, now you don't have to go in and search for this topic and this category every time. You can just go to your favorites and it will list those in order, so the navigation becomes a lot more streamlined.
Yeah, it's a time saver.
So because I'm in here, I am going to grab the organ, glands, and systems, and let's just copy those over. This is saying if you were running a male client, it's going to say, are you sure you want to move forward with any female topics? In this case, I'm going to say skip.
I don't have any ovaries. So.
Yes, that's a good thing today. So once I grab those, I can see that it has taken all of these organs, glands, and systems, and I've moved them into this column. This column is what I am specifically going to run on this next portion of the scan. I don't have to stop there. I can now go back and say, okay, what else might I want to look at with this individual?
Parasites.
And let's go in and find parasites. So that's going to be under nosodes. And then we come down to parasite nosodes. And here's all of the different parasites. And I can go ahead and throw those over. Now that's taking the entire group. If you had some type of suspicion that you wanted to really look at one specific parasite and ask a single question on one specific.
Like a fluke parasite.
Yep, you can choose that one and just carry over one item. So the Elite gives you that flexibility that you can start controlling and manipulating really specifically what you want to run with that individual. I mean, that is the beauty. It's now you can customize this to your clinic, and like Tracy said earlier, you don't have to learn your style to fit the software. The software is going to fit your style of practice.
And if you get inspired and you're sitting with the client and you go, oh, you know what, we should also do bacteria. Boom, go in and do bacteria. Or if you're like, well, I don't want to do all the bacteria, but I just want to do some of the main ones that I'm looking for because I have a suspicion or a hunch about a specific maybe symptomology that's going on. And so you could select Borrelia or some of the other bacteria that you're focusing in on and slide those over.
Correct. Once you've got that list together that you want to run, you'll go ahead and click Next. And at that time, you will have the client go ahead and put their hand on the hand cradle, and it will start that process. Again, I'm in simulated mode, so it's just going to put in some fake numbers. It speeds this process up a little bit. And what it's going to do is come to this break point where it will now tell you how was that skin conductivity reacting to those frequencies that we were sending out. So the first one, it says teeth and jaw, so that would be the highest priority that you might want to focus on, and so on and so forth. I mean, the beauty of this technology is what is the priority?
One of the nice things about the ZYTO software is this is a lot like applied kinesiology or muscle testing. We can take a product and put into somebody's field. We can then muscle test to find out whether they gave a strengthening or a weakening response to that. And our system works the same way. We send a signal or a frequency to the biofield as a stimulus, and then we measure that response with the hand cradle, measuring the electrical conductivity of the skin, and it gives us a response. We have three responses that we're looking for in the system. Was the response, as Josh mentioned, a coherent response or a balanced response, much like saying, hey Josh, how you doing today?
Doing good.
Great, that was just a normal coherent response. Or we could have the second response, Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome!
A good response, but a little exaggerated. So that higher amplitude response is something that we'd want to take a look at and ask the question, why did it respond in a higher amplitude response? And the third way, Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, that's his normal response. And we're always wondering about that. But that is a low frequency response. And so we take the low and the high and use those products or services to balance those and bring those into a coherent response. And that's what's the beauty of this.
So now what I want to do is, on this list, I can uncheck something if I don't want to move forward with that item. Most of the time we're just going to leave that. I'm going to click Next, and this will bring all of the information to our Elite palette. So now I can quickly see in a visual the highest priority all the way down to the least priority. If you're looking at these little dots on the wagon wheel, is what we call it here, I can quickly click on it. It shows me over here what it is, teeth, and so now I've got that quick visual of what I'm trying to accomplish or deal with here.
The balancer area is where the cursor is now, and the goal here is to find out what either product or services, homeopathic or flower essence, nutraceutical, is going to assist in bringing these into range. And so we just click on the hand cradle with the down arrow, and it brings us to our next library area. And this is where we get to search more for product companies. And so I'm just going to have Josh click on all libraries. And these are the libraries or product companies that you have selected in your library manager prior to this. And you can deselect them. You can take them all if you want, but that would be a lot. And so I would recommend just at first taking one product company.
So I'm going to come in and let me choose, for instance, maybe let's do biotics research.
Great. And by choosing that, we can then go to all relationships and just choose their products. We call the products balancers, and so that's kind of synonymous with that. Now, we can either choose just individual products, or we can choose the all and select all of the biotics products, move them over into the left-hand field. Now, it does ask us, do you want any of the female products? And sometimes female products might be appropriate for what you're doing. That is dependent on you as a clinician or practitioner. But we're going to select no on all of those, and then we'll run the scan to find out what balancers come up as highest priority, next priority, and so on. So what we have here is a list of products and their priorities. And the one that gets the highest number is your highest priority or most biologically preferred product. We're then going to select that one. We could actually select...
let's do maybe the top 5.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
The nice thing about this area here is, contrary to some of our other softwares where it will automatically just choose the top maybe 8, this goes in and you can now take control. So I can say I want maybe the top 5 because for whatever reason the skin conductivity had a great response to that information. But then I can come down and say, you know what, I really don't care What ZYTO says here, I want to come in as a clinician and add any product to that list. So
Once
you've
again,
got
the
that
flexibility is, yeah, I love that.
So I'm going to go ahead and click next. Let's add those 5 down to our balancer table here. And now what we want to do is we want to say, okay, if I'm going to take that top product, I want to put that against the overall stress, these items above.
Right.
So this is where the client will then put their hand cradle on again. I put this little check mark or this triangle in. We call that the circuit. So now we're telling the software, include this information. What we're going to do is now put that against those stressors. So we're going to do a quick reassess. And it will go through and say, with this information, how does it affect the overall top stressors? And you can quickly see the visual here. These items that were originally stressed came back into range, and now they are less of a priority, and we can go on to the next step.
And since you mentioned range, I'm going to pop in here and just explain range a little bit. So range, I always think of it as, what is your coherent state? So I asked him earlier, hey Josh, how you doing? And he answered, I'm fine, thanks, and that's coherent. So range comes from a baseline perspective, and it's how far from baseline can you go and still give an electrical coherent response numerically. So you might have 1 plus or minus 2, 3, 4, you might get 5.63 plus or minus, and that's his unique range. And I think this is very important. So one of the ideas that I like to explain about range is it's like a polygraph test. The polygraph examiners made galvanic skin response very famous and acceptable in the industry. And so they ask a series of controlled questions, and you have that little needle that goes back and forth on the paper. And we'll say, Josh, what's your name?
Josh.
And, yeah, good. And last name, phone number, and we ask a series of control questions, and that little needle goes back and forth, and it develops a range that we can see that is a coherent response for Josh. And then we start in some of the other questions, which are stimulus, and say, well, tell us a little bit about May 23rd. And if that elicits a stress response, the needle now goes out of the normal range, and we can see that that elicited a stressed response or an electrical stress response. And so that's kind of what we're dealing with here. We want to bring things into a coherent range as we continue to introduce the nutraceuticals or the services into the areas of stress.
Correct. Great analogy there. So then the nice thing here is like we've said multiple times, the Elite gives you that flexibility. You know, if I come over now, I can say, okay, that was a great response here, so I'm going to keep that. Now I'm going to add the second product in. So I grab the second line down, put the little triangle in there, and then we're going to do another reassess. The client would put their hand on the hand cradle. We then say, okay, with what is left of a priority, how does that affect it? Another really good response. Now, another unique feature here in the software of an Elite is, say we send that stimulus to you, and the overall stressors didn't respond very well. Maybe 1 or 2 came in, or sometimes you see this little circle kind of spike out. That is saying that the skin conductivity liked the information of the product overall, but when we put it again against those stressors, the stressors just didn't react to it. So in this case, it probably wouldn't be best to go with that product. You would move on to the next. So I can come over here and push this back button, and that back button puts all of those stressors back to where they were. I can then uncheck this second priority,
takes it out of the
move on
circuit
to the next one, reassess, and see if I get a better response. So now I can really start honing in on what is truly going to be best for this individual. And as a practitioner, I can kind of guide and direct on really what's going to be the best priority for this situation.
Well, and I like it because we don't promote pill pushing. I mean, we want to find the supplements or the services that are going to be most effective. We find that you have greater compliance with the program, and I'll take compliance over supplement sales any day because they're going to start feeling better, they're going to refer other people, they're going to be happy with your services, and most importantly, they're going to have vital health. And so that's what's most important to us.
Correct. Correct. And the nice thing by doing this manual scan is you can get to a point where you're actually going to go through a session much faster because you're just pinpointing exactly what you want to go through very quickly. You're doing it based on how you like to look at the body, but then also geared towards the patient right in front of you. Where if you look at some of our other software like the Select or the Balance, it's kind of just an automated scan. It gives you great information, but you don't have that flexibility to really gear to what you're trying to accomplish sometimes.
Some of the unique things that we can do with the balancer area is that we can click on the dosing, the little dosing right there, and we can do a dosing scan so you can find out what it is that they want specifically from a dosing perspective.
And you can see here that the product company has already gone in and put some parameters. So what would be the minimum and the maximum amount that they would suggest in a clinical setting. And you can come in here and override it if you would like and set your own parameters. But the nice thing is now, kind of like that kinesiology type response, we're going to say within this parameter, what is the best skin conductivity response within that range.
Right. The other part about this that I enjoy too is that you can make these adjustments over here on the left-hand side. Then you just click Next, and the person will put their hand on the hand cradle. Then you get the suggestion as to biologically what's preferred on a dosing level. We can also do some potentizing as well.
I was going to say you can see really quick, if it turns blue, that's telling you that that was outside of the parameters, so it's different. And so visually you can quickly see that. Anything that's orange, it just stayed within the same parameters of the recommended dosage from the manufacturer.
Nice. One of the other benefits of having the Elite system is the ability to potentize. And so like homeopathics, they need certain potencies, and you can find out what their biological preference is for potencies as well. And so you can go through the process of selecting a product, clicking on Next, and then it'll ask you, what potencies would you like to scan for? I'm not a homeopath, and so I just select the general ones and then hit Next.
You can also create your own homochords.
Yes.
So if you are doing something in the Elite and your background is homeopathy, you can actually go in and there's a lot of customization that you can do within just that aspect alone.
Yeah, I find this very powerful. Go ahead and click on Next. Then we can find out what potencies, and you can see them down here on the field that they'll change what the potency is. So it's very powerful, and I guess what I enjoy most about the concept of doing the potencies is I can also take say a parasite in the stressor field here above, and I could move that down into the balancer field and then potentize that. And under the law of homeopathics, one of those is the law of similars, or like heals like. And so you can use that process to assist with creating a homeopathic solution.
Correct. And with that, you also have the ability to influence. So I can come over here and click on this output, is what we call it within the software. But really what we're doing is just influencing the field, or if you have some type of a carrier, you have the ability to influence that carrier with just information. So if you like to get into that stuff too, you have that ability within this software. Another wonderful feature of the Elite system is in the Select and our Balance, when you get to a report, if there's a nutritional product on there or some type of a stressor on there, and you don't want to maybe talk about it, or you don't want it on the report, you can't really get rid of it. I mean, it's there, you've gone through the session, it is what it is. The beauty of the Elite is I can come down here and before I create a report, I can say, okay, I'm not going to move forward with some of these products. So I'm going to come over here and delete. So let's delete these products here. I'm not going to move forward with any of those. I'm just going to keep the ones that we had a triangle in because they were a part of the circuit. We can see how the skin responded to that information. And now it's just super clean. But we still have some different stressors here. I mean, we might want to bring that in a little bit tighter. And so another thing that you can do is an external
An external stimulus button is really what it is. Josh will move his cursor right over there, and we can see that you can click on that. Now, you're going to do this after you've had the external stimulus, so this is how this works. You just go ahead and leave the scan the way it is. You take your patient or client and they can get a foot bath or a chiropractic adjustment or some type of anything. I mean,
acupuncture.
That's
a great.
A hug. Hugs are good. Once you've done that, you can then have them come back, put their hand on the hand cradle, and then click on the external stimulus button. And what that'll do is show you what your service or whatever it is that you rendered to them does to the rest of the areas that are out of range.
And when I've clicked that, it's telling, this is kind of on your left-hand side, this is your log. I like to think of it as like an audit trail. You can go back and see what you've done through the entire process here. And we've told the software we have done something outside of the realm. We're not looking at nutritional products or a modality within the software. We've done something outside of it. So I need to tell the software I've done something. So by clicking that, it puts it in the audit trail. And then the client would put their hand on. I'm going to go ahead and just click reassess because we've told the software we've done something. It'll put in some fake numbers. But you can see right there, that would be the skin response and just the information of that modality that you did.
That was an awesome thought hug.
Correct. That was great. So the goal isn't to get everything in. I mean, you can keep going until you bring everything in, but we've now made a great plan set for that client here. You've got two products here. You've done a great modality within the clinic, and so that is a great session right there, and it was all geared towards that individual.
And it gets kind of exciting for me because if I think, well, that modality was great and that worked, I could also say, well, in the balancer field, I want to run just a whole list of services, and I can select those services and find out more what other services that might come up. And then I can either have them in my practice or I can refer out to another practitioner as to what those priorities were. So once again, we're getting information, and you as a practitioner get to decide on what you're going to do with that information. This is decision support software. It's very important to remember that.
Another thing to think about is it looks like we're going through a lot of information here. But like in our previous videos where you go through and we go through the menu buttons and you go down to training, we have such great training options from videos, live coaching, that you really get through the training fairly quickly and you can learn this in a simple.
Well, even in a 1 hour session with the trainers, you can be up and running from that 1 hour training. So from the get-go, you can get going and then you can do some scans, meet with the trainers the following week and be able to then ask them some questions, and then they're going to fill in the foundation some more. You'll do some more scans. The third week, you'll do some more questions. They'll fill in more, and they'll continue to build upon the foundation of what we've been creating here. And so it's really very customizable for you as a practitioner.
So after you've gone through and you've looked at the stressors you want to look at, the balancers that you want to prioritize and look at, you've kind of come to the end of the session. Now you can create beautiful reports. The nice thing about the Elite is the reports are fully customizable. You can give as much detail as you want from maybe the parasite, a description of the parasite, the product, description of the product, what areas of the full energetic value brings into balance. I mean, it really, you can get super detailed, or you can keep it very basic. Here's a list of the nutritional products that I want you to take, maybe a description, and they're walking out the door. To do a report, you're going to build your own. So our coaches will help you create those reports, so there is a little bit of learning there. But we've gone ahead and created some quick ones where if you go to our biosurveys and you go down to the new biosurveys, it says report only. This will take the information from the stressors, the balancers that you did a manual scan with, compile that all into a quick report that's easy to read, and then you can immediately email that or print that for the client right then.
Yeah, I always want you to keep in mind when you're building your reports that it's going to make sense to the patient or client that's receiving it, and that keep in mind also that you're like, well, how is this going to help with my marketing? Are they going to be able to go home and say, you know, hey hon, look at this, and they're like going to be able to repeat it. There's been all too many times I've gone into offices and I've had blood work done, and the person goes through my blood work report, and bang, 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 and I'm like, I understood it at the moment, and then when I got home, I couldn't explain it to my wife, who is an RN. And so I really want you to keep in mind that, but it's nice and powerful, you know, and you just have to think strategically. And the coaches can assist with implementation, and you're more than welcome to even, you know, call us at times to say, well, how could I implement this in a better way? We're always open to that. That about wraps up our Elite video. We wanted to really highlight some of the features of the Elite. The most common question that we do have is, what are the differences between the softwares? And that was really the purpose behind this video, is to show you some of the highlighted features and benefits. I hope you've enjoyed this time. We look forward to having you give us a call. We have information on financing, pricing, specials that we're running. We're here to assist you in any way that would be beneficial for you.
Or if you have any other questions, you know, if you have any other questions on the software that maybe we didn't cover here that you had questions about, you know, that's hopefully this video helps spur more questions that we can assist with.
We look forward to assisting you in any way. Give us a call, and thanks for viewing the video.
Yeah, thank you so much.